Crisis management. When it hits the fan, you need to clean the fan, fix the fan, or replace the fan, okay? So, now we're going to talk about crisis management. And just what is a crisis anyway? Remember, crisis really is in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? What could be something really, really bad to a reporter may not be so bad to everybody else. It's in the eye of the beholder. How many of you all have ever seen something that doesn't seem like a big deal to you, however, it seems like the end of the world to somebody else? Media loves situations like that, and quite frankly, they thrive by taking something that is minor and turning it into something that is major. Crisis management. What are you going to do if you're in trouble? What are you going to do if your organization is in trouble? Well, there's a few things that you do want to do and a few things that you don't want to do. Number one, resist combative instincts and tell your people to do the same. The last thing you ever want is to see yourself on the news extending a middle finger at a camera or shoving a reporter or cursing or having whatever you say bleeped out. Why? Because that is the last thing that anyone will ever remember of you, and it's very, very hard to recover from something like that. So keep your cool. If you don't think you can keep your cool, stay away from the reporters until you can keep your cool, or get a credible spokesperson. Next thing, use direct communication with important publics. Publics, P-U-B-L-I-C-S. That's publics, plural, okay? There isn't just one public. There are many different publics, okay? Your customers may be a public. Taxpayers are a public. Motorcycle lovers are a public. Baseball fans are a public, okay? Publics are basically groups of people who are interested in one thing or another. Use direct communication with important publics. Addressing the problem forthrightly is the shortest route to reputation repair. So, if you have to approach local government officials and say, we messed up, then do it. If you have to approach business leaders at your Chamber of Commerce and just step right out and address it, then do it. If you have to call a reporter and address it directly, by all means do it. Avoid the bunker mindset. Don't ever refuse to respond, and don't say no comment. Because the last thing you want to do is make a reporter, number one, angry, and number two, curious, okay? If you're hiding behind attorneys or if you're hiding behind a no comment sort of response, then all it does is make you look bad. Know when to use strict message discipline. What is strict message discipline? Well, it's a technique of answering if something is bad and you don't know all the facts yet and you have not had time to formulate your response. For example, you may see law enforcement say, that's under investigation and we can't go into that right now. Well, they're doing that for a few reasons. Number one, they don't want to incriminate someone in the news that hasn't been charged or proven guilty yet. And number two, they don't want to put out the wrong thing. They certainly don't want to, they want to avoid libel and they want to avoid slander, okay? So strict message discipline could be something like, that's under investigation, we're looking into it, and we'll tell you more as we know more. And if that's all you say, then that's all the reporters have to work with. So, what is going on? That's under investigation. Well, do you have anything new to report for us? That's under investigation. Is there anything that you would like to add? That's under investigation. What did you have for breakfast this morning? That's under investigation. If that's all you say, then there is no room for a reporter to misquote you. All the facts are not known right now, and that's okay. But if you promise a reporter that you're going to come through with a detail later on, just make sure that you follow through with that promise. Finally, reach out to a trusted reporter in advance. Sometimes a reporter that has a hard-nosed reputation, they can be the most credible. And sometimes those are the ones that you want to reach out to in a crisis, especially if there's some mitigating facts on your side. If there's some mitigating facts on your side, reach out to that trusted reporter, reach out to someone who's credible, and tell your side of the story the best you can. If it involves legal trouble or if it involves litigation, you definitely want to work with your attorney while you do it. You want to work with an attorney, and you want to work with your brain trust, whoever that might be. It could be advisors, it could be a public relations person. It needs to be a coordinated effort, and you should put up a united front. You should have a plan in advance, okay? But reach out to a trusted reporter, and it's always better if you are the one who actually throws out the first, throws the first punch, if you will. Because whoever speaks first sets the tone for the story. After all, what sounds better? Disgruntled former employee or hero whistleblower? They can both be the same things, just to different audiences, okay? Whoever speaks first sets the tone. So have a plan in advance. If you are doing something and you think there's a possibility that you could get bad press from it, have it all spelled out ahead of time. Have it spelled out ahead of time. Questions and answers for a reporter. What reporters you might want to reach out to. And finally, how you can best take a bad situation and have a plan to turn it into a good situation. Get your story out. Now we're going to talk about basic journalism. Okay? So here goes. Number one, don't use industry jargon or acronyms. You know who's really bad about this? Medical personnel. Engineers. They're often very bad about it. So what is an acronym? An acronym can be shorthand. It can be an abbreviation for something. The problem is it's something that is known to you, but it may not be known to your audience. Remember, you're not just talking to someone that you work with. It's not shop talk when you're talking to a reporter. You're talking to Fred and Martha sitting on their sofa watching the evening news, okay? And so you want to make it as clear as possible to them, because if you lose them, then your whole public relations effort is for naught. Have you ever noticed that when you're reading a book, you read a book and you go back and you get to the end of the page and you realize that you have to go back and reread the page again. And then you go back and you reread the page again because you didn't comprehend something. There's a reason for that. As soon as you go past a word or symbol or phrase that you don't understand, your mind stops comprehending. And if your mind stops comprehending, it doesn't comprehend anything that goes on after the word or phrase that you don't understand. Well, that's what you're doing to your customers, or that's what you're doing to your readers when you use jargon or acronyms. So, if you are a medical professional, don't use medical jargon. If you are an engineering professional, don't use that either, okay? Don't use jargon that is unique to your profession. Otherwise, no one's going to understand it. I'm not going to beat that up too much more. Comply with the Associated Press Style Book, also called the AP Style Book. Notice how I dealt with this acronym right here. It's Associated Press, and then in parentheses I put AP. So the guideline is that once you've used it once in the page, you can put it in parentheses, and after that it's fine to use the acronym throughout. All right? So, what is the first sentence of a press release called? It's called the lead, okay? You want to make your press release look like a newspaper story. You want to make it look like a newspaper article. So what is a lead? The lead is the opening paragraph. It's the most important paragraph there is. You all know what the 5 W's are, right? Who, what, when, where, okay? And why. So the lead should be no longer than 30 words, right? Because anything longer than 30 words is a run-on sentence. So the lead should be no more than 30 words, and it should have at least 3 of the 5 W's. Who, what, when, where, and why. Doesn't matter which ones, just make sure that it covers at least 3 of the 5 W's. It's probably the easiest way to remember the lead. What comes between the lead and the body of the story is known as the bridge. The bridge simply connects the lead to the body of the story. So the bridge connects the lead with the body, and it answers the other W's, okay? So if you've answered 3 of the 5 W's with the lead, then you want to answer 2 of the 5 W's with the bridge. And then go on and write the body of your story or the body of your press release. Make sure that the press release has lots and lots of relevant keywords. We talked about how to find good keywords. And make sure that it has lots and lots of relative links, okay? Lots and lots of good, relevant links, okay? And in case I forgot to mention it, make sure you don't use industry jargon or acronyms. Any questions about that? Get your story out. There are many different ways to get your story out. How are you going to distribute your story? Well, as I said before, there's no substitute for the personal touch. So get to know reporters and editors who cover your sector. Their contact information is almost always available under their byline. Who wrote the story? Well, they're always happy to say who wrote the story, so they're going to put their byline under it. Here's the headline of the story. Underneath it, it's going to be by and the reporter's name. These days, it almost always comes with an email address. So surprisingly few people actually write to reporters. So, like I said, it's all part of highlighting your difference. What's different about you? What's different about you is you write these reporters, you get to know them, and you reach out to them when you have an opinion, something that's useful, something useful to add. Write strong headlines that capture their interest. You have to make it reporter and audience-centric, not you-centric, okay? Too many people want a press release done for something that excites them, okay? We are moving to a new office, or we have just written a new policy and procedure manual. Well, none of those things really fit under those elements of newsworthiness that I went into earlier, okay? In other words, no one cares about it. So, in other words, you have to make your headline. You have to, when you write your headline, you want to talk to your readers, all right? So, here's an example. If you are in the title insurance business, don't put out an article that says latest best practices in the title insurance agency, because nobody cares about that besides you and people in your industry. Otherwise, no one is going to read it, okay? Instead, you always want to, your press releases and your blog entries should discuss how someone can use your product, how they can benefit from it, how they can profit from it, okay? Make it focused on your readers. Don't make it focused on yourself, make it focused on your readers. That's what I mean by reporter and audience-centric instead of you-centric. Humanize it. Don't sanitize it, all right? Sometimes the problem with doing public relations for a large organization is that it's usually subjected to a committee of people who want to make it safe, okay? And that usually consists of managers and attorneys, all right? So if you want to make something boring so that no one wants to read it, just run it by a whole bunch of managers and attorneys. If you're a small business owner, you don't have to do that. You can tell your story your way, all right? So if you write something that is safe, reporters aren't really going to pick it up because they're not really interested in covering safe. Playing it safe is not newsworthy. It's boring, okay? That applies to the media. In fact, it applies to life. If you're an entrepreneur and I'm talking to you, if you want to play it safe, you keep that corporate job. But you're not playing it safe. Instead, you're starting your own business, and you're doing it strictly on your own terms. So whatever it is, step out, own it. Tell that story with panache and confidence, okay? Highlight your difference, not your similarity, because no one really cares about what makes you similar. Reporters don't care. They care about what makes you different. Comment on a reporter's stories from time to time, but as I said, do it constructively. Reach out to that reporter every chance you get and offer your opinion. Offer some new fact. Offer something of interest to them. A sharpshooter approach is much more effective than a shotgun approach. What is a shotgun approach? Well, that's using PR Newswire or using a distribution list to just send out a press release, okay? Because you know what that is to reporters, and you know what that is in the newsroom? It's like spam, okay? It's junk mail to them. That's what it is. They get 200, probably more than that, press releases every single day. Now, if you do it this way, then you're probably going to be about as successful as people are who send out junk mail. You can send out junk mail and you can get probably a 1% conversion rate. Send out junk mail, get a 1% conversion rate. But what you succeed in doing is just annoying the other 99% of your market. It works the same way with sending out press releases. If you just send it out there like spam and send it the scattershot sort of approach, it's not really going to be effective. Instead, you want to get to know reporters. You want to get to know reporters that cover your sector, and you want to try a sharpshooter approach instead of a scattergun approach. In other words, take aim at a certain reporter, communicate directly with that reporter in a way that is consistent with their reporting. Use distribution services selectively. Don't spam. As I just said, distribution services can be regarded as spam. In summary, get noticed. As an early stage entrepreneur, search engine optimization is one of your best weapons. So that means blog like crazy. That means build up your Facebook presence, build up your social media presence, and spend your time enrolling in the online directories such as Merchant Circle, Yellow Pages, Bing, etc., etc. Do that, and you will notice that it will not take long before you've risen significantly in your Google rankings. Position your business properly, then pursue media coverage. As I said, private triumph has to come before public triumph, okay? So get a good foundation of internet presence first, all right? Get a good foundation of internet presence first, because public relations is almost like a marketing, it's almost like a marketing tactic. If you get a good write-up in the newspaper, it's going to make your phone ring. You want to make sure that you're ready to deal with that first. Make sure that you're ready for the phone to ring. Don't pursue media coverage until you're ready for the phone to ring. Until you're ready for the phone to ring, not only from reporters, because once reporters call you and report on you, that's going to be followed by customers wanting to buy from you, if you've done it right. Find ways to demonstrate your difference. Whatever your difference is, whatever it is about you that is cool and unique, you want to highlight that at all times. Express it in your business. If you express it in your business, then that's your differentiator. That's what makes you unique, okay? Always highlight that. It's why you're in business anyway, because not only you want to make your own money, but you want the freedom to do things your way, not someone else's way. And that's it. So with that, I've got a case study. Without the benefit of the video that this came with, this is a senior Marine Corps enlisted person. Specifically, his rank is Sergeant Major. Now, this man had been in the Marine Corps for about 26 years or so. And he was a senior enlisted person at a base called Parris Island. Parris Island is Marine Corps boot camp. It's been made famous by movies such as Full Metal Jacket, and it's a rather high-profile base. Well, last June, there was a protester outside the main gate of Parris Island, and the protester was wearing a hat, a military-issued hat. It's called a campaign cover. It resembles a cover that was worn by Smokey the Bear or state troopers, okay? In fact, sometimes they're called Smokey the Bear hats. The protester was outside the main gate and is wearing this hat inappropriately. It's actually in violation of U.S. law. And he was protesting President Obama's decision to swap Sergeant Bull Bergdahl for 5 Taliban commanders. So he went out there and there was an altercation. The problem is that while he was out there protesting, there was a local news crew that was filming the protest. Well, Sergeant Major Archie and the protester got in a discussion. The discussion got heated. And the two men got a little too close, and the campaign cover, the Smokey Bear hat, fell off of the protester's head. Sergeant Major Archie grabbed it, and he put it in his Jeep, and he drove away. There were police there present, too. Now, nothing happened until later on that night when the police decided to charge him with assault. Why? Because it had appeared on the local news. Because it appeared on the local news, it went on YouTube. And so it was a bit of a trial by YouTube, if you will. It went viral. It had thousands and thousands of hits the next day, and the Sergeant Major went to the Beaufort County Jail and he turned himself in. So his mugshot appeared on the news the very next day. And as soon as that happened, the commanding general demanded that he either resign his position or retire. In other words, he got fired, okay? Now, I took him on as a client, and so, as we said, I wanted to write as strong of a headline as possible. This was already in the news at the time when I wrote it, which is early June of last year. Sergeant Major retains defense and receives wide support. So, here's the lead, right? 30 words or less, and at least 3 of the 5 W's. Who? Sergeant Major Paul Archie. Where? Beaufort, South Carolina. What? A 26-year veteran was involved in a confrontation with protesters. Where? Outside the Paris Island main gate. When? Last Thursday. And he's hired a local law firm. And of course I put the law firm's link on here too. Archie was charged with 3rd-degree assault and battery in connection with the encounter. So the first sentence is the lead, the second sentence is the bridge, okay? Archie was charged with 3rd-degree assault and battery in connection with the encounter. And then just some more information about the case itself in what we call the body of the press release. Now, there were some things going on. There was some context that he wasn't really in a position to tell the media, so I did it for him. The context was that Sergeant Major Archie had just returned from burying his father like 3 days before, so he was stressed out. He was stressed out not only for that reason, but also one of the Marines that worked for him had committed suicide in his barracks that very morning. All right, so not only did Sergeant Major Archie just had to bury his father, but he also went and discovered the dead Marine in the barracks. Not only that, but Sergeant Major Archie was ordered by his commanding general to go out and deal with the protester appropriately. And so none of these things were really known in the official press release, and the police department certainly didn't mention all these other factors. So we wanted to give it some context, and so I sent this specifically. I wanted this read in Washington, D.C. I wanted people in the Pentagon to see this, and so I very carefully searched the Washington Post. That's where I want this. If I want this to be seen in the Pentagon, I'm gonna send it to the Washington Post. And all I did was Google. If I didn't know the reporter, I know him now, but I didn't know him at the time. I just Googled reporters in the Washington Post who do national security, who cover national security, and I found one. And I promised this reporter some extra details because the reporter is already interested in the story. So the reporter writes this story, okay? And it came out the very next day after I sent the press release. The Marine Corps Public Affairs Office put out a press release saying that they regretted that he was resigning. But instead, what they did was what the Washington Post did, because they wanted balance, was they pretty much put up my news release. Okay, so if you link to it, it goes right to my release. Also, remember how I put in the link to the obituary because he just buried his father a few days ago? It linked to his obituary here. And also, the story about the Marine that had committed suicide in the barracks and how Sergeant Major Archie was stressed out when he had to go and confront that protester. Well, there's a link to it there too. Even best of all, said the public relations firm that produced it was founded by a former Marine public affairs officer, and this links right to my website. This is search engine optimization gold right here. So, the nice thing about including all those links is, yes, it is a little bit more time consuming, but now you've done a whole lot of the homework for the reporter already. And now you're guiding the reporter to the same conclusions that you want the reporter to get to. Reporters don't necessarily want to do a lot of work. The more you can do for them, the more they're likely to write a story that agrees with your point of view. And so that is the case study. That's it. Are there any questions? Any questions at all? If not, I hope that this has been helpful. I hope that you've enjoyed it, and I hope this has been beneficial for you. Again, Triumph Business Communications, where we get you noticed. Thank you.